Hamas has presented a Gaza ceasefire proposal to mediators, which includes a first stage of releasing Israeli women, children, elderly, and they have also proposed to release the ill hostages in exchange for the release of 700 to 1,000 prisoners. Hamas said in its proposal that a deadline for an Israeli withdrawal from Gaza would be agreed upon after the first stage. Meanwhile, thousands of Israelis took to the streets on Thursday calling for the release of hostages. They marched from Tel Aviv Square, and the protesters carried enlarged images of women taken as hostages by Hamas on October 7.
We want to achieve talks. We want people, we know that bringing them back alive is by talking, by diplomatic people, by people that are good in negotiating. They should do their job. They should have the chance to do it. The military gave them the chance. Now it's time to give the stage to them.
There is a deal that we can do right now, but it seems like they don't want to do it, and they do everything not to do it. But they've got to do it because they're not going to survive. They're going to come back all dead. I want that Ofer will come back home alive. We've got a family that's waiting for him.
Well, this is as the Israeli lawmakers on Wednesday had given their final approval to an amended 2024 state budget to fund its operations in Gaza. The parliament members voted in favor of the spending package of $160 billion. The plan also includes higher allocations for health, education, police and welfare. Additionally, the IDF has been expanding aid efforts as well for Gazan citizens on multiple fronts. And DD India's Alex Kadir joins us now live from Jerusalem with an update. Alex, Netanyahu hasn't accepted any truce offers from Hamas in the past. Is there any pressure, on the domestic front that may make him change his mind?
Well, there's a lot of pressure on the domestic front, particularly from the families of those hostages. There is a broad consensus across the country that a deal should be reached if it is reasonable with Hamas to release those hostages. We know that Prime Minister Netanyahu just yesterday, for the first time in 6 weeks, met with some of the family members of those hostages being held in Gaza, and in a statement they said that it is the Prime Minister's responsibility to secure their release, and they can finally envision embracing their loved ones again, and that they urge the Prime Minister to give them that right. We've seen these families protesting every Saturday without fail since the October 7th atrocities, since their loved ones were taken. There is a lot of political pressure in favor of that deal. A poll back in December suggested that 67% of Israelis supported a deal to release the hostages. But it's crucial to say that although a lot of the coverage and a lot of the global reaction sees this as a ceasefire deal, the perception in Israel is very much that this is a hostage deal. This is a deal to release those hostages taken by Hamas, and if a ceasefire is needed to allow that to happen, then so be it. But the primary focus, the primary pressure on Prime Minister Netanyahu is the release of those hostages.
Indeed, and then, but how much support is there for the Gaza war itself now that the Knesset has approved that $160 billion funding package?
Well, the support for the war is steady, it's high. The Israeli population are very supportive of this war. To give you a sense, 75% in a poll out just last week support a further operation in that southern Gazan city of Rafah, where 1.5 million Palestinians have sought refuge. Now that goes against the wishes of the international community, against the wishes of the Biden administration in Washington, the administrations in London and Berlin for other Israeli allies as well. So clearly the domestic support for this war remains strong. The objective of Prime Minister Netanyahu, which is the complete eradication of Hamas maintains its support levels within the Israeli population, even though they don't necessarily have support for Prime Minister Netanyahu individually. Politically, we've also seen members of the war cabinet consistent in their support for this war. The opposition also offering their support when it comes to the release of the hostages and the eradication of Hamas. So that broad support for this war remains still very strong here in Israel.
Alex Kadir from Jerusalem, thanks very much. Meanwhile, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has appointed his longtime economic advisor Mohammed Mustafa to be the next prime minister to reform the Palestinian Authority. Mohammed Mustafa is a leading business figure in Palestine. His appointment comes after mounting pressure to overhaul and revitalize the governing body of the Palestinian territories and to improve its governance in the West Bank, where it is based. Mustafa had helped organize the reconstruction of Gaza following a previous conflict, and he replaces the former Prime Minister Mohammed Shataya, who along with his government recently resigned in February, in fact. And as President Abbas still remains by far the most popular figure in the Palestinian Authority, the appointment of the new government is a demonstration of his willingness to meet international demands for change in the administration.